All right, final video, at least for now, anyways. Well, full-fledged housing crisis in Silicon Valley from Wall Street, or do I want to talk about U.S. gross national debt to spike by $800 billion in October? Or maybe I should do both, because I'm that kind of guy. F it, we're gonna do both, 2 different videos. No. Changed my mind again. I don't want to do 4 videos. I want to do 3 videos. We're going with the gross national debt. U.S. gross national debt to spike by $800 billion in October? Question mark. Wolf Street, Wolf Richter. The other option, too ugly to even imagine. There is zero chance, no chance, we won't raise the debt ceiling, swore Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell at an event in Louisville, Kentucky on Monday. He who couldn't get his Republican ducks all lined up in a row to get any major legislation passed this year was confident that the Senate would pass a bill that would raise the debt ceiling so that the government could continue to pay for things that Congress told the government to pay for, and so that the government could service its debts rather than default on them. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin was there with help, or to help him, pleading once again for a clean debt ceiling increase. His magical super treasury powers that allow the government to conserve cash to avoid having to issue more debt will expire at the end of September, he said. This is not about spending money, he said. This is about paying for what we've spent, and we cannot put the credit of the United States on the line. The debt ceiling is just under $20 trillion. While the government can issue bonds to redeem maturing bonds, and it does this all the time, it cannot allow the gross national debt to go beyond the debt ceiling. But because it has to continue to pay for things that Congress mandated in its various spending bills over the years, the Treasury scrounges up the money from the government accounts, robbing Peter to pay Paul, so to speak. For example, it temporarily short changes the Civil Service Retirement and Disability Fund. These extraordinary measures, as they're called, or the magic super treasury powers, as Mnuchin called it, run out after a while. Mnuchin said in his last letter to Congress that the out-of-money date is September 29th. But as in the past, the real out-of-money date can be probably around stretch to October, into October. These shenanigans make the entire world shake its collective head and pray that Congress, after going through its charade, will, for the umpteenth time, raise the debt limit. The other option is a U.S. default. Its global consequences are too ugly to even imagine. But the charade, or this charade, has some peculiar effects beyond its entertainment value. For months on end, it covers up the true extent of U.S. government debt and the current surge of this debt. And I'll pull this up as I read this. This chart shows the gross national debt going back to 2011, including the last 2 debt ceiling fights. Note the long flat lines leading into October or November, followed each time by an enormous spike. So, are we going to see an $800 billion spike in October is his question. Answer, it might only be 800 if he's lucky. Okay? It could be well over $1 trillion. We're going to see, though. On October 17th, 2013, the day after the debt ceiling was raised, the debt jumped $328 billion in one day and then continued to surge. November 2nd, 2015, 2 years later, the day after the debt ceiling was raised, gross national debt jumped $340 billion and then continued to surge. In the 2 weeks after the debt ceiling increase, it actually soared by $520 billion. This year, the show is going to be even more magnificent. My guess is that the debt will spike $420 billion in a business day or two. In a day or two. They ought to play that song when they're doing their little debt ceiling battles. Oh, things that you say doesn't make the debt go away. Okay, sorry about that. Anyways, my guess is that the debt will spike 420 billion a business day or two after the debt ceiling is lifted, and then continue to surge, and that it will jump by close to 800 billion in the 30 days following the debt ceiling increase. Again, I'm just gonna say the number that's coming into my head, 1.1 trillion total, not on day one, but how much are they actually gonna add over the next month or whatever after this happens. Number that just is telling me 1.1 trillion. 1.1 trillion. This will put the U.S. gross national debt at around $20.6 trillion before the year is up, and there will be debt out of the wazoo going forward. If Congress doesn't raise the debt limit to allow the Treasury to issue bonds to bring in the cash, the U.S. will default on its debts and or fail to make other payments that it is obligated to make. So as one former Treasury official told Washington Post in July, officials are now brushing up on options in the crazy drawer. Hey, honey, what kind of options do we... Forks, knives? What's in that other drawer? Oh, that's the crazy drawer. Open it up. Lawmakers will return to Washington after Labor Day to tackle the debt ceiling. If there were a good chance they'd fail, I, who no longer shorts anything anymore, would short everything and curl up into a fetal position until the dust settles. However, I'm confident that the drama queens, after going through maximum theatrics and bluster, will manage to raise the debt ceiling. They managed each time before, and they'll manage this time too. They're political animals, but they're not stupid. I'm sure of that. Knock on wood. Fingers crossed, he says. So what happens when the Fed begins to unwind QE? The Bank Advisory Panel told the Treasury Department that the accompanying decline in stocks and bonds will be, quote, a financial engineering shock. Shaka Khan. Shaka Khan. Come on, everybody. Shaka Khan. Shaka Khan. I feel for you. But it won't be systemic, they said. A financial engineering Shaka Khan, but it won't be systemic. Huh. Oh, you mean it'll just be utter destruction all at once? Okay. So let's just... so just let markets clear, they said. Read stock and bond markets in denial about QE unwind, but banks, Treasury Department get antsy. Again, this is from Wolf Street. Whatever. I'm out. Take care.